Good evening and welcome to the Monday, December 10, 2018 Board of Education meeting. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Which flag? Over this flag. This way. Yes. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is to take action on the last set of minutes from November, the November 12, 2018 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Any changes, corrections, clarifications? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? And then
I want to abstain.
okay, Mr. Sands abstains. November 26, 2018 workshop meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Any
Second.
changes, corrections, clarifications? Are all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I should say, by the way, we're down two members. I believe Ms. Cohen is not here because of a conflict with a matter up in Hartford today. I am advised that she will not be joining us anymore. She will be resigning before the next meeting in January. So we will be, and we're going to be talking a little later in the agenda about the process that we intend to follow filling that term. Although I think probably we've already announced it pretty broadly. So we will recognize her service in an appropriate way somewhere down the road. So item 4, public forum for topics on the board agenda. Anybody? All right. Item 5, review and approve expenditures for the month of November.
That's me. So the expenditures for the month of November were $5,151,887.54. And year to date, that puts us at $20,741,411 and some change. Pretty close to last year. The warrant was $2,575,000, and we talked about it pretty detailed in the operations committee.
We did.
So that is a motion.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve those expenditures. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6, communications. It's a fairly quiet month. I don't know. Did anybody get anything that they wish to? I got an indirect communication today stating actually that the board was going to be considering realigning the middle schools again. I must tell you that there are some things I understand and there's some things I don't understand about where things come from. I don't understand where that came from. There has been no discussion about that. There's been no even hint about that. There's been no thought about that. You're pretty far along in your budget preparation process, I'm sure. Is there anything about relating to that in the budget?
You will see nothing in your budget relative to the 2 middle school structures, no.
You know, I urge people, if you have questions about something that you would like to know the answer to, reach out to one of us. We will be happy to talk about it. And there is no discussion, no plan, no anything. I don't know, what's another word for plan or discussion, a thought about any kind of realignment of the middle schools. It's just not on the table. And I don't know how much clearer I can be. But anyway, I'd urge people, if you have any questions about things like this, to reach out, and we'll try to communicate as clearly as we can. Any other communications?
I've just received a couple emails regarding support of full-time art teachers in the
Okay.
elementary.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we get those.
Okay. All right, well, that's obviously going to be a discussion
of the budget
as part of the budget preparation. Okay. Anything else, or anybody else? Okay. Student reps, you're down one, so you're, all right, so what can you tell us?
So from Baldwin, there was an escape room activity hosted on November 27th for students and families of 6th grade students. There were 4 escape room experiences where teams of students had to work together to solve a multi-step mystery to unlock clues and escape from the room. And it was a fantastic event. There was also an hour of code activity last Thursday and Friday for the 4th year. Students enjoyed the activities, and they're working to incorporate opportunities for students to be exposed to coding activities as part of their regular daily instruction. And finally, the Student Council will be hosting the annual Cocoa Cafe on December 21st. The Baldwin Middle School tradition is highlighted by performances by members of the band and strings program. Then from Adams musicians are in the middle of their concert season. The honor band travels to Calvin Leet School on Friday, and keynotes will be performing at the Guilford Library after their school concert next week. Adams' 7th graders went to SCSU to see dramatizations of a number of the short stories that they read this fall. 8th graders are now involved in a study of the American Civil War after researching the witness stones, and everybody at the school is looking forward to the winter vacation.
All right. At Calvin Leet, they enjoyed 2 musical enrichment programs recently. One was called Bash the Trash, which was a program sponsored by the PTO that demonstrated how musical instruments could be created and played from trash, and reminded us all to reduce, reuse, and recycle. And last Friday, as Noah was saying, Leet students and staff enjoyed a performance by the Adams Middle School Honors Band under the direction of Sue Oakley. And the Adams students shared their amazing musical talents during the half-hour program of seasonal songs. And the Calvin Leet School Student Council poured hot chocolate and shared holiday cheer last Thursday night on the Guilford Green as part of their outreach in the community. With our focus on gratitude, Leet students are considering and planning ways to demonstrate this within our school and outside in the community. And at Melissa Jones, the MJS staff completed a Choose Love training, and they rolled out lessons this week. And we started with the Brave Breath breathing technique today. And there was a wonderful Native American storyteller who came in as part of a cultural arts event last week. And he worked with each grade in the library for 1 full day. And the students learned many stories which they were excited to tell at home. 3rd graders are learning to play ukuleles and strum to chords along with songs that we are getting ready to perform. And they have learned to play 3 chords. Students are also writing informational pieces on marine animals in 3rd grade, and the 4th graders are finishing up Rube Goldberg contraptions as part of a STEM unit to make a machine to perform a basic task using force, energy, and motion. Presentations for tasks will be presented orally with parents before the winter break. And that's all for Melissa Jones.
Moving on to the high school, the fall sports seasons have ended. The girls' field hockey team had an especially outstanding season. They won both the SEC championship and the Class M state championship. That was the first time they won both tournaments in the program history. And then winter sports have been starting up over the past 2 weeks. Boys hockey has their first game tomorrow. Girls basketball also has their first game tomorrow. And student leaders have met with Mr. Messeni to review current Board of Ed policies about vaping and have been asked to strengthen these policies as vaping incidences have increased this year. There have already been 6 vaping cases, but it remains very difficult to detect. And next week's advisory will be centered around the issues of vaping and will explore the side effects and consequences of vaping. The annual Red Cross blood drive is tomorrow. It's sponsored by Student Senate. We already have over 65 students signed up to donate blood. And there will also be a pep rally on Friday, December 21st. We held our fall pep rally on November 20th, which was very successful. We had several minute-to-win-it challenges, with the seniors winning the entire pep rally. And Mr. Messeni was the star of the pep rally with his performance bobbing for apples.
Is there video of that?
Not allowed.
Somewhere.
We'll talk later.
And I'm reporting that Quarter 2 has now begun, and first quarter report cards have been distributed. And the tree lighting concert was a success with a couple of sold-out shows. And thanks to the leadership of Ellie Petra and Unity, we have raised over $600 just within the school to donate to the California wildfires. National Honor Society made holiday cards for senior citizens, and Voices is beginning to get ready for their caroling season. And there's a new program for students that's going to be rolling out soon, after the holidays though, called Sandy Hook Promise, where we all would get an app where we can anonymously report any harm towards us or others. And then the degree of harm is evaluated by a third party and sent to principals and police and superintendent immediately. and this will come, I think, in January. Some students are beginning to hear back from colleges. We have not heard back from any schools yet. Maybe the end of this week. I don't know. We'll see. And the Action Against Hunger can drive was a huge success, with over 3,000 cans donated. And the top class donated 726 cans.
And whose class was that?
Our class.
Great. Great. Any questions? Anything else?
Outstanding.
Yeah, very good. Chewing fingernails a little bit for colleges?
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, we look forward to hearing next month. Hopefully you'll have some news and you can let us know. Hopefully I'll find out before next month, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, it's possible. All right, thanks.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, item 8, superintendent's report. Really just an update on the budget process.
Just an update on the budget process tonight. We remind you that at this time, we have met with all building principals, all department chairs. We are finalizing our work on that first draft of the budget. I want to remind the board that a week from tonight, we have our first joint meeting with the Board of Finance. We will not have a finalized budget to share, but we do intend to talk with them thematically about the shape that the budget is taking this year. Important dates to point out, both to remind you, the board, but also for the community. On January 14th, we will be rolling out the full draft, the administrative draft of the budget here in this room at your regular meeting for January. And then on January 28th and 29th, we will be hosting public comment on that budget as presented to you on the 14th. Work is well underway. We will have that draft for you in time for that presentation. Additionally, I mentioned in the operations budget, we plan on having any capital requests for you at that same presentation on the 14th in January.
Okay.
And that concludes my report.
Wow. You're getting better at this as you Okay. Any questions about that? Any clarification needed? Okay. We do have one personnel item. 9.1 is to act on a resignation. It says for the purpose of retirement, but I'm told it's actually not for retirement. It's just the teacher accepted a position closer to her home, is my understanding. So is there a motion to ratify the resignation of Clara Otto, what does she teach? Language arts?
World language.
World language at Baldwin, effective January 1. Is there a motion to ratify that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? What's the plan in terms of coverage?
We are working on a long-term sub to come in and begin coverage immediately, and Mr. Hamill is working on posting and beginning advertising. We're working on recruiting. I'll remind the board that world language is a shortage area.
It's a tough area.
It's a tough area to fill, but we're working on it. We began work immediately.
Okay. 9.2 is to act on the proposed 2019-20 school calendar. We did talk about this quite a bit last month. Do people have questions, comments, thoughts?
I would just report that it is back in front of you unchanged. I did go back and speak with principals. We did look at the placement particularly of the early dismissal days and then the placement of the professional development days. The fact is there's always the ability to move a little bit this way or that way. We really do believe that we have the learning spread out through the school year, that we have it placed in ways to leverage participation and timing, and as we spoke about last time, essentially following what has become a predictable pattern, and we do believe there's a value in the predictability of this for the families that are impacted. We appreciated the conversation. There's certainly opportunity to change, but we remain committed to this draft and brought it back to you unchanged.
Any questions, comments, and are we ready to act on this? I agree that the predictability is actually of some value. You know, I think we've been doing this fundamental calendar for, 5 or 6 years now, I want to say, and I think at least people know roughly what's coming and what the rationale for it is. Is it perfect? It is not perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect calendar. There can't be.
It also aligns to the regional calendar as much as we could, so that there are as many touch points to the regional calendar, which means that we have opportunities to collaborate or to gain bus efficiencies with our neighbors wherever possible. So by aligning to that calendar, we can share rides to students who are out of district, and it gives us the opportunity to collaborate in as many places as possible.
Okay. Is there a motion to ratify the 2019-20 school calendar draft as prepared by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 9.3 is to just act on our meeting schedule for 2019. I think this is entirely predictable, right? This is following
Exactly right.
exactly the same order.
Yep. The next two items are just built off the school calendar following the traditional meeting
Okay,
schedule. Yep.
right. Okay, so let's act on the full board 2019 meeting calendar. Is a motion to approve that meeting calendar.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then 9.4 is to the committee, the Operations, Curriculum, and Policy Committee meeting calendar. Is a motion to approve that calendar.
So
So,
moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I should say, by the way, we often add meetings to that, particularly for the committees, so we can do that at any time.
We can change these calendars as long as we appropriately post any changes. Yep.
Right, okay. Dr. Balistraci, 9.5 is to act on some recommendations from the
Yes.
Policy Committee.
So the policy committee brought to the Board of Ed, I believe in September, a homeless students policy and a homeless students regulation as receive items. We were to vote on them the following month, but the policy committee asked to put a hold on it because the policy, there was some confusion about the policy itself. We are bringing the policy and the regulation back. These are, the policy is quite short, the regulation is quite long, reflects all that the school does and needs to do when we have students that are homeless or have become homeless. And is something, in fact, that we are already doing, but outlines, particularly the regulation, outlines all aspects of the approach. So unless anyone on the board has a concern about this, because it was already at one point a receive item in this, in the form that it is brought to you tonight, I'm prepared to make a motion to ask for its approval, but I certainly do understand if people want a little more time.
Just as clarification, so this was brought as a receive, and then it was pulled back.
It was brought as a receive, right? And then the next month when it was on the agenda as an act-on item, the policy committee asked to pull it back to double-check because there was some confusion about whether just the policy, the regulation was fine, whether the policy was as the policy committee had voted on. It was a policy in which CABE had provided us with several options in terms of approach. And there was some confusion again about what the policy committee had voted on. We brought it back. We spoke at our last policy meeting, recognized that, in fact, the way the policy had been brought to this board was the way we wanted it and is the way that you see it tonight.
So what was brought as the receive
Is
is what's here
Yes.
tonight?
Yes.
No changes.
Okay.
No
Yep,
changes,
we've
yes.
confirmed that
Sorry,
No
and
changes.
I apologize for the confusion. But we
Okay.
did not want to proceed
Until we were sure.
until we were sure.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that there's no
Yeah,
changes.
and, right,
Okay.
and the last thing that I will simply clarify is the two options in the policy is the one that you see before you, which is, which briefly identifies the policy and then refers to a long and detailed regulation. And the policy committee felt that it was unnecessary to also have a long and detailed policy that was that had such a good amount of overlap. So I will make a motion that the board approve the new 5132 homeless students policy.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I half feel compelled to say the difference between a policy and a regulation is the policy sets out the principle, the regulation
Absolutely.
is how the policy
Absolutely.
is implemented. That's the difference.
Yes, that's
So
right.
they're not supposed to be
right-
repetitive.
That's right.
No, that's right.
This is the
And
right
CABE-
way to bring it
right.
forward. I
And
completely
CABE
agree.
CABE is, as you know, so very helpful in guiding boards on policies and regulations, but they often provide a lot of information, and we often find ourselves tailoring it back again for that reason. So then I am going to propose to the board that they accept 5132 homeless students regulation that accompanies this policy.
It's a motion, a second.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. 9.6 is again to just discuss and highlight what I think the board has settled on. Our process ought to be moving forward to replace the anticipated vacancy of Christine Cohen's seat. She is going to be sworn in as a state senator. I think I think it's January 9th. I want to say right. She I think, intends to not submit her resignation until early January, or at least sometime before the January 9th. Under the town charter, the Board of Education, has 60 days to fill that vacancy. By charter, because Ms. Cohen ran as a Democrat, her replacement has to be a Democrat. Quote, if practicable, close quote, and I think that's a highly likely to be able to meet that. We have put out in a couple of different ways. I know the Guilford Courier had an article about what our anticipated process was going to be, and also we put out on the school listserv that what the board would like to do is to try to have an open process, not to have it controlled by, in this case, a Democratic town committee. Same as in past, we have not had it controlled by the Republican Town Committee in a couple of vacancies that have occurred historically. So what we are going to do is invite applications between now and this Friday, the 14th. We'd ask for a resume and a cover letter. Just send it to me on the school website. I've already received quite a few. I've already talked to some people. Yeah, I think I've already received about 10 applications. I want to say, yeah, and I'm also. I mean, a couple of people have said, "Look, I'd like to know more about what it involves," and I'm going to be as honest with them as I can be in terms of the number of meetings and so forth. Not all meetings move this quickly, but
Don't scare them off.
but I think it's important for people to understand that it's not a to do right, it's not a minimal commitment, and I think people understand that. So I will repeat the offer here that if people have questions about what being a board member entails, or what our interests are, or what our goals are, what we think about the future of public education in Guilford, what we expect a board member might, some of the responsibilities might be, call me. Or shoot me an email and I'll give you my cell phone and I'll call you when I'm on the road, which is fairly frequent. So I'm good with using my hands free. But it's a look. I encourage people to apply. I think it's a terrific way to serve, and a terrific way to be involved in the community. I think we. All 9 of us, soon to be 8 of us, but all 9 of us take it very seriously, and I don't think anybody has any regrets about running. So, encourage anybody to please just shoot me a resume and a cover letter, and I will be happy to talk to anybody. Or you're free to call anybody, obviously on the board. I think any of us would be open to that, and I suppose that if I were you, I might call a couple or 3 people on the board just to get a few different perspectives. So that's what and then I think our plan is that we're going to try to get together in an executive session and narrow the list down to some number of people. We can do whatever we want. It could be 5, could be 3, could be 8. Could be whatever the board wants to do, and then we would meet in early January sometime, and then interview some number of people, and then make a decision as soon as practicable after that. I think the ideal goal would be to have somebody here on board for the first meeting in January. That may not be possible, but that is absolutely the hope. So I think we look forward to it. We've done it before, and it's been a really great process, and I'm confident that it's going to be a very good process again. And
Mrs. Fandel and I will help with posting any of those meetings for you so that they're properly posted in advance. And then we could certainly invite any interested candidates to attend the January 14th presentation of the budget. So even if they're not a sitting board member, they can be here to hear the budget presentation.
yeah, no, I think we're pretty likely to have some, I mean, by the 14th, I think it's a pretty high likelihood that we'll
At least have a small.
at least have the small number
I
of
think that's
people,
great.
but perhaps more than that. We just can't interview the week between Christmas and New Year's. That week is not available. So we're going to try to do it as early as we can in January. So, did anybody have any other questions or
Just because
comments?
there was a couple inquiries to me, and there was a little confusion that it was to see out Christine's term until
Correct.
November.
Correct.
That is absolutely correct. It is
And then they would have-
10-month appointment.
Right.
And so if the person who applies needs to understand that if they want to continue to serve on the board, they'd have to run in the contested election, or an election anyway, November of 2019. It is
And we would welcome them doing so.
well, that's going to be a question, of course. I think that's going to be
Right.
a question that the board would ask is, are you interested in a 10-month job and then retire, or are you interested in continuing to serve?
Right.
And I would expect anybody interviewing should be prepared to answer that question. That would be a high likelihood that that'll come up. So, okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. We're up to committee reports.
Yep.
Anything else from the policy committee?
No, I'm looking at Mr. Bowden. I mean, we reviewed a couple of other policies and regulations, but have nothing to bring forward at this moment. Do
Right,
you have
we're doing
anything?
some homework on a few items
On
that
a few items.
we wanted to look at in our next meeting.
Okay. Operations committee, you want to summarize anything that we talked about?
Yes. We had two extended discussions. One covered an update on the busing performance. And I could summarize that as that things are clearly getting better, but they continue to work on this. And we had a fairly extensive discussion of some of the facilities issues, particularly at Jones and Lakes schools. At Jones, we've been having pretty serious problems with the newly installed boilers, and the school has been cold. And at Lakes, we have just the opposite problem, that the temperature control system in the building seems to think that we're somewhere in the tropics, and everybody is practically fainting from the heat. We have, shall we say, caught the attention of the vendors involved and have focused their mind on the problem. And we believe that both of these situations have been resolved, but it's taken longer than we would have liked. But we believe that both of these situations are on the mend. So that would pretty much summarize the operations committee.
Okay. I think there was also just a note that the town is mediating with the vendors of the second artificial turf
Yes.
field later this week,
Yeah, Wednesday.
Wednesday of this week, to see if a resolution can be achieved without litigation.
Yeah.
And
Right.
So,
Let us be hopeful.
well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee, anything going on?
Don't meet until after the new year.
All right, then we will get a report. Town committee liaisons, anything? Anything with pension? All right. And then the Learn Board of Directors, I think. Did you go to the last meeting?
I didn't go to the last meeting, but I'm scheduled for this Thursday.
Okay, all right. So then we'll carry that over and have something then. Okay. Anything else on committees? All right. Item 11 on the agenda, public questions. Anybody? Please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Salato, 51 Kendall Court. I just had a couple of questions that I wanted to make sure I understood. First was the reason for the board of director or the Christine Cohen's position not being to the public to vote. Is that because it's finishing out her term?
Well, the short answer is that's what the town charter says.
Okay.
But it is whenever there is a vacancy in an election in the third or fourth year of a four-year term under the town charter, it is an appointment by the board. And if it is in the first or second year of a four-year term, then it's an election. It's an appointment for the rest of that until the next town municipal election. So it would be up to 2 years, and then an election for a 2-year seat. Gotcha. So it is. The short answer is it's what the law requires.
Okay.
And the law gives us no alternative.
Okay.
There is no town election between now and November.
Right. Okay. And then regarding the busing situation, I know you spoke about it briefly. We're 4 months into it now. I still hear there's issues. Some high school students, their buses are actually coming earlier than last year, so they're definitely not getting any 15-minute additional sleep. They're actually getting less sleep. I was wondering if you've heard of that issue as well.
We did get some data about that. It looks like there's one bus that is just about the same time as last year. Mm-hmm. The 2/3 of the buses are more than 11 or between 11 and 20 minutes from last year. Have I got this right? Yes. I'm just working on it. And then obviously everybody who drives, which is about 50%, or either drives or drops off, is about 50%, are all getting all of the benefit of the later start time. So is it perfect? No, but it is better. It's significantly better. So the number of buses that there's a minimal improvement on is not many. It's in the low single digits.
But hopefully, so we're hoping, obviously, by the end of the year that will be.
Yeah, and
that we would obviously like this change to affect and benefit everybody.
Yeah, we talked about it at some length in the operations
Yeah.
committee. There may be and Mr. Sands actually asked the administration to give us some ideas about, forget adding $500,000, but what if we added one bus? Would that help? If we added 2 buses, would that help? A bus is roughly $50,000,
Right.
So that's going to be reported to us as part of the budget preparation process. So it's better. The vast majority of high school students are getting exactly the benefit that we expected. And I think the way Dr. Freeman framed this during the Operations Committee meeting is it as good as we were hoping? No. Is it as bad as we were fearing? No.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's a good place to be, I suppose.
It's better to have it all good.
Yes, but we're getting
there,
hopefully.
That's what we're going to keep trying to work for.
And then I'm sure you've all seen the big concern that I'm hearing about now is this bullying. And I don't see a whole lot. What are we doing? Or what are you guys talking about it? Are you seeing what we're seeing now through, obviously, the big article that came out not so long ago towards the end of summer, and now there's a lot of talk on it on Facebook. And I know we don't like to talk about Facebook, but the reality is that's how people are communicating with each other now. And I have to say, I feel like Guilford is getting a terrible, terrible reputation. And is there something, or are we looking sort of a route as where we're going to go with bullying? Are we going to relook at our policies regarding it? Are we going to talk about it? Do we have a committee formed? Like, where are we? People are really sort of very concerned about this at the moment.
Well, one thing, I'll let you answer that, but one thing I don't know if you heard the student reps.
Yes.
We're talking, we are rolling out the Sandy Hook
Which is
Promise
brilliant,
app. In January, is it, or is it more?
January, we've already trained staff members, students.
The board got a presentation on this at our last workshop meeting. It's an outstanding tool because it allows people to report things, incidents, fears, concerns to a third person, a third party that is highly trained and that tries to then assess the situation and then report to the superintendent, the building principal, and the police, depending on what the issue is. Now, and it's been used very effectively in some towns. We're very confident that it's going to be a valuable tool to the administration and the police, but that's absolutely only one thing.
Unfortunately, because the real end of it that I'm seeing is the response of the schools to those incidences, and it's talk on Facebook, but the reality is I'm not a big proponent of sitting and reading these things and commenting. I'm always saying to people, why aren't you going to these Board of Ed meetings and talking about this, or talking to somebody at the Board of Ed instead of sitting and just writing about it?
So one thing that is really difficult for us is the superintendent or the administration, building principals may know about a particular incident.
Right.
But we're not going to talk about it at a public meeting.
Of course not.
We can't respond. We're not
Right.
going to. We wouldn't ask the superintendent to say, well, what about that? Well, how did the administration respond? We can't do that. And I feel always a little hamstrung, limited, I guess is the right word, by what we can, as a board, can say, or what we can ask the administration to say. I will tell you, and I'll let you respond to this in a second, but I will tell you categorically that we have emphasized in every time that we talk to the superintendent, either as part of policy development or the principals as part of meetings with the principals, with teachers, frankly, when we meet with the teachers alone without the administration, that we have made it crystal clear that we expect our policies and what our parents expect are going to be followed as it relates to reducing the risk of I know bullying is the shorthand term, but I think we've kind of settled on just calling it mean behavior, and it is exponentially harder today than it was 20 years ago because of social media. Mm-hmm. And anybody who doesn't understand that and doesn't know what their kids are doing
right.
on social media is really missing a great opportunity and arguably helping to create some kind of a risk. But in any event, do you want to respond about what your position is on this?
I do. I mean, the question was, are we talking about it, and are we working to reduce incidents of bullying in the schools? And the answer is an emphatic yes. We have always been talking about it and working on it. We continue to be talking about it and working on those instances. Last year at a workshop meeting, we had an agenda item where we talked in very broad terms about all the work that the schools are doing to develop positive environments, to support positive relationships, and in fact to reduce incidences of mean behavior, disrespectful behavior, or bullying behavior. I will go so far as to say among the students and among members of our community at large, including all of the adult members of our community as well. This year tonight you heard reference to Choose Love programming, which is another program that comes out of Sandy Hook Promise, as well as the Say Something component. We continue to partner with DAY. We continue to partner with the mentor groups. We have teachers and administrators in our buildings who are committed to making those spaces safe and supportive environments for students. This year, we changed the board's priorities to put an emphasis and a focus on the fact that the positive environment comes first. I would say to the community that if you have concerns about your child, please come to the principal of the school, come to me. Discussing it in a social media venue is really, really limiting when we're talking about one individual child. If there's concern about one child, please come to the schools, please come to me. If there's concern about the environment, then I would encourage you to talk to your PTO, to talk to your school principal, to talk to me. It is something that we work diligently at every single day and always know that we can be better. But the suggestion that the teachers, the administrators, or the adults in our schools are not as concerned about this as anybody else in this community is wrong. And I want to say that as emphatically as I can say that. We are here because we care about our children. We want them to be safe, healthy, well, and then learned. And that's what we're here for every single day. And any adult will support anybody in this community who reaches out for help with their children in our schools.
Okay. Great. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. There was, by the way, there was just a social media workshop at Adams, where it wasn't there for parents.
There was one about safe social media usage.
Is it Adams or Baldwin?
That was at Adams,
Adams,
and then there was an additional one. There were two recently. One was about how to use our software tools that we are providing to parents this year that allow parents to both monitor and control student use of the devices, the school devices that we put out. Another one was more broad, and it was simply about safe social media and internet usage for teens, and we had some experts who joined us. We also recently had an evening that focused on concerns around vaping and the prevalence of vaping that we're seeing among young people, not just in Guilford, but across the nation. And I'd also note, I have also this year invited a number of our local residents who happen to be experts in the area of child, adolescent, mental health, wellness, and substance involvement. And I've scheduled a series of meetings with those practitioners to have exactly these kinds of conversations about how, as the leader of the school system, how should I be thinking about these broad questions at a very high level so that at the granular level we can make really good and effective decisions for our kids. It's something that is front of mind for us more than it's ever been before. It has always been an important piece of what we do.
Okay, any other comments? Right, other questions? Please.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Ferrucci, and I live on Little Meadow Road in Guilford. I have two children, one in 4th grade at Lakes and a preschooler. I'm here tonight to speak in support of full-time art teachers in the elementary schools, as well as to have an additional 30 minutes of art instruction per week. Many have spoken up in support of this with some type of art background. My work experience is actually in project management. I realize a large hurdle for you is the budget and finding the time in the already full school day to fit in the additional 30 minutes. These are two areas my work has provided me with a lot of experience in, money and time management. I've been thinking on these two things a lot over the fall. I spoke to my 4th grade daughter about where we can find the time because, of course, a very knowledgeable person on how the school day runs has been right in front of me every day. She told me that a couple of times a week, either specials teachers or a substitute comes into her classroom so her teacher can go to meetings. Here is the time for more art. And the classroom teachers can easily have their meetings as well as save money on substitutes. This was very exciting news to me, and I hope it can help you in this process. My 4th grader was also telling me the other day about the things she loves about each of her specials. And while she does love creating art, she pointed out it is the only special that she can socialize with her friends while doing the art. Isn't that just one more reason amongst many that more art could be beneficial to the students? We are very much nearing the close of the proposed budget, and I would be interested to hear where you, Dr. Freeman, stand on incorporating more art in the upcoming school year.
So until I present the complete draft to the Board of Education in public, I work very hard not to leak where we are in the process. So I'm going to have to ask the board and the community to be patient.
Okay.
It is a moving target. Until we have all the pieces in, we can't commit to any one element of a budget. So I'm very careful about presenting the budget in full the first night we present it and not piecemeal along the way.
I understand.
Fair question.
I understand. Sorry to keep talking, but someone else did ask me to also read her speech. She can't be here tonight, so I'm going to read this for her. My name is Jennifer Sidney Silva, and I live at 407 Schoolside Lane. I'm writing in support of additional art time in the elementary schools. Art is a discipline that pulls together many skills in a way that very few areas do, giving our children the opportunity to harness creativity and fostering achievement at higher levels. The hands-on nature of art class is something that is falling by the wayside in our schools in the current trend that pushes the use of technology, where even our younger elementary school students are handed Chromebooks to use for non-trivial portions of the school day. The experience of utilizing different mediums in an art class and the ensuing benefits simply cannot be replicated on a screen. We moved to Guilford in part because of the reputation of the Guilford Public Schools. It is surprising to us that our district falls far short of the Connecticut State recommendation for elementary art. We would like to see Guilford increase elementary art time to at the very least meet this recommendation. Thank you for your consideration of this important issue.
Thank you. Other questions? I see one of our custodians just found something missing. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Westgard, and I live at 205 State Street, Guilford. I'm 7 years here. I was a Fairfax County school teacher, art teacher, K through 6, and we were partnered with the Kennedy Center, and I was a Kennedy Center arts coach. And the Kennedy Center and our arts-focused team, we reinvented our school because we had become a senior community, basically. We lost our children. So we became a focus school in technology and arts and also Spanish immersion. When we partnered with the Kennedy Center, we wrote curriculum, and we were visited nationally by teachers and whoever was interested in how do you teach the core curriculum through the arts. Some people took it as a placebo for the core curriculum. We decided to teach absolutely the soul of the subject through art. It was the core curriculum taught through art in our school. This is what we saw. We saw the children that had been slipping through the cracks, had been not speaking, had been not doing very well. They completely changed. Their peers looked at them differently. The teachers looked at them differently. The possibilities bloomed. These became leaders. The teachers had a new engagement with their children, and they decided sometimes they wanted to stay for the art lessons, which were very hands-on. We would meet with each team level, and we would say, what is it that you're trying to get across at this point in the school year? And from science to math, language art and social studies, you name it, we did it through visual art as well as performing art, music, of course, and we had language arts sessions, and we had open nights for art, like a gallery, like a real gallery. Everything was respected. Everyone was told they were a creative being, and they started believing it. We had heard people saying, but I'm not creative. Well, that was no longer heard at our school. Years later, when they went up to the high school, the teachers always knew who came from Lake Ann Elementary because they learned how to invest in a subject. They learned how to experiment. They learned how to get along with whatever partner or group they were working with. And they had an innate feeling of being valuable to a situation. And they became thinkers out of the box. I can tell you that the people that I taught back then as sixth graders, I was fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. They're people that some of them are teachers now, and they're going on with this idea. And they are all creative, wonderful citizens of their community. So I just wanted to say it's just more than social time. It's more than creating something beautiful. It's expression. It's thinking process. It's relating to your world and your community. And it's building leaders. So anyone want to talk to me, I'd be glad to. We had a wonderful program. It's called CETA, C-E-T-A. You can look it up online. Kennedy Center, they're still doing it.
Can I ask a question? So when you say that am I understanding that you would actually incorporate art within the core curriculum classes, or are you talking about a pull-out class? Or
No, both things. It depended on what the comfort level was for the teacher or the team. Lots of times we would go right in there, teach the lesson for the teacher, teach with the teacher. Then there was pull-outs. We had, at Fairfax County, we had one or two teachers, art teachers in every school, and a resource teacher that would come, I believe, every other week. We had lots of art. And our arts focus school, it wasn't thought of as something separate, but it was absolutely, as I say, kind of the soul of the subject.
When you say it's an art focus school, is it kind of like a magnet school, or is it?
It wasn't magnet because we didn't have transportation provided for it.
Okay.
But it's a thematically based program.
Yes.
It would be
Okay.
similar
But
to
a
the
thematically
themes
based
that you see
program.
around Connecticut
Yeah.
magnets.
Right.
Okay.
And we brought the children in, which was great because it was a great little school that was dying, and so we met the needs of the community. So
Okay.
it was a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
My name is Elizabeth Stein. I live at 1311 Little Meadow Road. And I submitted a letter to all of you. Thank you to those of you who responded. I would like to see full-time art for the upcoming elementary year to meet state guidelines, meeting twice a week for a total of 60 to 100 minutes. I moved to Guilford as well, 3 years ago. I have a third grader and a kindergartner. And we moved from Brooklyn. My husband and I both have a background in the arts and fine arts, and we chose Guilford for the schools. We could have kind of gone anywhere. We chose for the schools, we chose for the community, we chose for accessibility to nature, we chose for this whole package. And it was so important to us that our kids were in a school system where they could prosper, they could grow from pre-K to high school. We were just very impressed with what we found. But I have to say that I'm very concerned and disappointed to hear that we fall under the state guidelines. I'll read you my letter. I said, involvement in art allows children to explore meaningful paths of expression. It encourages confidence, cultural awareness, and sparks imagination. Art helps in nurturing the whole child. Our children deserve a well-rounded education that offers a healthy balance between academics, enrichment activities, and recess. We have a responsibility as parents and educators to provide that balance and to make sure that each contribution receives the attention and time that it deserves. I believe that includes meeting twice a week for a total of 60 to 100 minutes per the Connecticut State Guidelines. I kindly ask and strongly encourage you to please reevaluate the breakdown of our children's school day and to increase art in our elementary schools so that it aligns with state standards while keeping in mind the duty we have to provide a well-balanced education for our children. I strongly feel and believe that we owe it to our children to help them become well-rounded individuals academically. They're members of the society, they relate to other children, it's learning empathy, mindfulness, learning giving them tools that they can use their whole life. I strongly believe and agree with Kathleen that everyone's an artist, everybody. There's no wrong. There's no right or wrong in art. You walk into a room, you follow your feelings. It's a form of expression. I think it's really important that we encourage that in our children. I do not feel that it is any lesser to anything that we teach during the day, to math, to social studies, to science, to music, to performing arts. I think we have a duty as parents and educators to encourage that and to really provide our children with the fair opportunity to have art as a tool in their life. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Others?
Good evening. Catherine Adams, 250 Jumara Road. I come here as a parent, an artist, an art teacher, a teacher, a community member. And I'm looking at this from so many different points of view, and I don't have a letter. I have lots of papers here. What grabbed my attention first was something that was stated by one of the students here, and they were giving notes on what's going on in the schools today. And what's being used, the Rube Goldberg machine. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. He's an artist, and his work is being used in the classroom to demonstrate the idea of making something out of nothing and something big, small, and the whole idea of playing with ideas and critical thinking and how that works, how to make puzzles out of things, how to simplify something, how to exaggerate something. It's critical thinking. It is imaginative thinking. It is literacy. It's visual literacy. Art is visual literacy. For us not to make it a true component of the curriculum is a shortcoming. We are letting down our community, our citizens, our children are our community. We're letting them down when we don't give them an art basis that is solid and substantial. So when we treat it like an extra, guess what? That's how they're going to think of things. They're going to think of creativity. They're not going to be critical thinkers. They're not going to be the critical thinkers that they can be. They're not going to meet their full potential because we're selling them short. And it seems like there's time in the schedule. seems like we've got some openings. So it seems like it could be done. And I think we're all very reasonable people. We want to see things that are best for our children accomplished. So I think that it behooves us to actually figure out how to make it work. Right now, we're not even meeting the national standard of time for that age group in the arts. And that is really, really disturbing. So not just the state standard, but the national standard. And I know that's not our intention at all, to sell anyone short. So the idea of taking STEM to STEAM should be our thinking. STEAM brings the arts into play, brings it in the classroom, but also brings it as a pull out. It allows them to have creativity in mathematics. It allows them to think about Fibonacci sequence and how that relates to art. And it allows them to go into the art room and then fully expand upon that idea in a way that makes sense to them as someone who's an independent thinker and maybe even doing some student-led investigations in a high school level when they have actually matured. So if we're not scaffolding this at the elementary level, how do we expect them to get to high school and really fully realize themselves? So we're doing it with English. We're doing it with athletics, for sure. We're definitely doing it with music. We're not selling them short there. We're really giving them a rich experience in the music, that form of the arts. So why is visual arts lagging? So we can critically look at that, and we can let that continue to lag. And that's our shortcoming. So I don't know why we would do that. Actually, I don't know why we would do that. It seems to me that it's pretty simple since there is time in the schedule. We have time where we can move it around. It should be in the budget. I know we don't like talking about budget, but it seems to me that it should be in the budget. I look at what's required of the students just to meet the standards in creating by 4th grade. And I don't know if we're meeting these standards. And then we're expecting them to go to middle school and have a totally different experience. My daughter she's in Adams now, and when she was at Baldwin, they were doing really intensive study on the environment and how art can be made out of things from the environment. How can we serve the environment, researching the environment? How do they get to that point if all they've been doing is 30 minutes a week? So we're expecting them to do it at home. So what else are they doing at home? School has a purpose, and it's to educate and to serve the population. So I think that together we can all make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Amy Kripe, and I live at 105 Union Street, and I was here last month talking about art education as well. But before I get to that, I just want to also kind of reiterate what Elizabeth said. I just moved here 4 months ago from Colorado with our 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 8th grader, and sophomore of high school here. And we chose Guilford because of the community, because of the schools, the great ratings, and so we really are here for the long haul, and we would love to see it flourish. And with regards to the bullying that was brought up, my stepson was bullied last year, and he did say that being in this school district, that his teachers this year have really helped him and are very kind and very nice and very helpful, and he hasn't had the issues. So I just, that was very nice to hear, and I hope that it continues with the discussion because it's a awful topic. But just to reiterate that I am also on board for a full-time elementary school art teacher. My husband and I are both in the arts background as well. Art encourages critical thinking, communication, and problem-solving skills. It helps each student understand cultures beyond their own. It helps develop the ability to engage, envision, express, observe, reflect, and explore. All of these are vital to success. And that's all I had to say for today. We had a lot today. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. We do have a short executive session on a potential litigation matter. Is there a motion for us to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we will be going into executive session, and we will coming out of executive session solely for the purposes of adjourning, and that means we will not have any further public votes this evening. So thank you very much, and happy holidays to everybody, and we'll see you in January. Or earlier.